Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. I am Melika Gauthier from Pros Partner Marketing Team, and today we are addressing the question, how do I efficiently benefit from more advanced pricing strategies without disrupting my business? Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. So first, this session will last 30 minutes, including a live Q&A at the end. So feel free to ask your questions all throughout the webinar in the Q&A panel. And also, we are recording this session and we'll make sure to share it with everyone once the webinar is done. So your host today is Nick Boyer. He's our Senior Director of Strategic Consulting here at Pros. Nick has more than 15 years of experience helping companies achieve commercial excellence. He has helped a lot of companies transform their pricing and commercial processes and generate an incredible ROI, including in chemicals, oil and gas, technology, food, and manufacturing. Nick is also a regular speaker at pricing conferences and events throughout Europe. You might have seen him at the EPP Brussels conference a couple of weeks ago, or you can see him next week in Amsterdam for the PPS conference. So with that, let's jump into it. Nick, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Malika, and love the accent and the introduction. Thank you very much. So welcome everyone to another episode in our series of webinars. And first of all, I'd like to take a little time to explain why have we chosen the topic for today. So at Pros, we work with lots of different types of companies that are looking at putting pricing initiatives in place. And many of those companies go on and get great ROI and go on to great and better things on their path to pricing maturity. But a number of them decide to do nothing. And they do that for various reasons, various barriers that get in the way and prevent them from moving forward. And so we thought it would be nice to share our experience and lessons learned and talk about some of these barriers. When a barrier is a legitimate barrier that should be sorted out before progressing on a path to pricing maturity, and some that can easily be addressed. So we're going to do that over 2 webinars. So we've identified the most common barriers that we see on this slide here. There's 8 of them in total. And in this webinar today, we're going to address the top 3. So the first one is around companies feeling that it's too complex to get going along a price maturity journey. It involves employing expensive consultants. It's very costly. The second one is around technology constraints, so not having the right integrated IT infrastructure to execute those types of pricing strategies. And then the third one is a lack of data, so not feeling they have comprehensive enough data to move forward on some of the more sophisticated pricing strategies, and not having the right analytical capabilities to inform those strategies. And then in the next webinar, we're going to look at the last 5, which is more around convincing senior stakeholders. We're going to address that a little bit today, but mainly talk about that next time. The potential impact that a pricing initiative has on IT, data quality issues, and when data quality is an issue and when it isn't, and concern about user adoption, so getting users to adopt the technology and therefore drive the return on investment. And finally, the barrier of other priorities within the business getting in the way of the pricing initiative. So for today, we're going to focus on the top 3. And before we go any further, let's look at a little bit at what we mean by pricing maturity. So this is a slide from our good partners Horvath, and they look at price setting. And a mature pricing company can execute all of these price setting, price management techniques. And really we can separate these into kind of 3 different stages for the purpose of this webinar today. The first one is not really having got going on a pricing maturity journey, so no genuine price logic, the same price has been used for many years, maybe it's just a pure basic cost plus on an annual basis. And then there's like that first step towards pricing maturity, the next two where you've got more of a handle on costs, you understand how the costs are developing, the cost base over time. You understand the competitive position as well, and you can adjust your prices dynamically according to, when the cost base moves outside of certain tolerances, when the competitive position moves outside of certain tolerances, you can execute your specific pricing strategies. And then there are the more advanced pricing strategies which focus on value-based pricing and intelligent pricing, where you're setting flexible prices, dynamic prices based on contextual data. So maybe the supply-demand position, or using AI to understand what's going on in the market right now. So those are the kind of three high-level stages of pricing maturity what we're going to discuss. But there's more to pricing maturity than price setting and pricing techniques. It's also about people, technology, and processes. And companies that are really good at pricing have this kind of feedback loop, if you like, in place that's on the screen here. So first, of course, it's important to set a pricing strategy that's aligned with the company strategy. To all intents and purposes, company strategy and a price strategy are very closely linked, if not almost the same thing. And what's also very closely linked, if not the same thing, is the offer structure of the organization. So by that, I mean, the products and the services that we offer, and how we distinguish that offer between different customer segments and different routes to market. So those three combined things are really important: the company strategy, the price strategy, and the offer structure, and segmenting our customer base around that. So around, which offers we want to make at specific prices to specific customer segments. Then we've got organization and governance, and then we're ready to do the price setting. So actually calculating the prices, executing those prices. So by price execution, it's feeding those prices through to the appropriate applications, the appropriate teams that need to consume those prices and execute on those prices. And then it's having the pricing insights to the pricing analytics to get the insights to help inform our strategies, to measure performance in terms of user adoption and adherence to the pricing processes we've got in place, so we can inform our pricing strategy and our price setting and go through this continuous loop. Now, different strategies and offers require obviously different capabilities to be in place. And a book that really, I think, sets this out nicely is a book called The Game Changer by two global pricing leaders in the BCG consultancy. They talked about the importance of linking a pricing strategy to a company strategy, and how that influences the different offers that we make. And they come up with 7 different pricing frameworks, which are in the middle of the screen here. So value-based pricing, cost-plus pricing, price to the competition, elasticity, game theory, differentiation, and supply demand. So different, they call them games that can be played, different pricing mechanisms that can be used depending on the context. And the context that is the most appropriate depends on a number of different factors. It depends on the type of offer I have as a business, I offer to my customers. So, am I selling complex configured products? Is it a very competitive offering? It's almost a commodity, et cetera, et cetera. So the nature of the offer is one thing that determines the right play. The second one is the competitive environment that I'm in. Am I in a leading position? Is it very competitive? Lots of small players, et cetera. And the third one is the customer base, the market that I'm selling into. How fragmented is that? Are there some big leading players with a lot of power, etc.? So I would recommend the read. It's a great read if you're interested in pricing. And it comes up with, what is the right play in the right context. And of course, companies need to move between different frameworks at different points in time, and different business units can have different frameworks at the same point in time, and of course different product groups may require different plays as well. And I think the takeaway for this webinar is that to be able to execute, to be mature in pricing, I need to be able to execute the aims or the pricing frameworks that are relevant to my business strategy at any point in time and move fluidly between them. And on the right-hand side in blue here are the key capabilities that the book recommends or defines need to be in place in order to execute on these pricing frameworks. And if we look at those, we can really split those into that kind of those less, as we're moving up that pricing maturity curve, the ones that are kind of initially required for kind of the first stage of maturity that we talked about earlier, and then the ones in blue here that are the more advanced stages of pricing maturity. So that first initial step is around understanding my costs in depth and being able to dynamically adjust my prices based on how those input costs move. And the second key one is around the competitive context and being able to, where applicable, change my prices based on how the competitive situation is changing. And then, of course, it's also important to be able to segment customers based on their value proposition, based on their value perception, and have that ability to shape my offer to different customer segments, to different willingness to pay. And so those in green is what we're going to talk about in the webinar today. So kind of getting going in that kind of first stage of pricing maturity. And some of the more advanced plays, some of the most advanced pricing frameworks are in blue here. So understanding a product's usage value. So it's basically, a value-based pricing. Understanding elasticities in a granular way and being able to price and adjust my prices accordingly, and understanding supply and demand signals and being able to change my prices accordingly. They're more advanced kind of pricing frameworks, and we'll look at those in future webinars as well. Okay, so for the purpose of today, getting going, that first kind of stage of getting more mature in my kind of the pricing plays, the pricing frameworks that I can apply. The key capabilities that are required are, first of all, the ability to generate the pricing insights, to, like we mentioned earlier, support my price setting, support the price strategies that I want to have in place, to monitor how we're doing, how those prices are being realized in the market, monitor user adoption so we can drive ROI. And the second important capability is being able to understand the cost and competitive position in detail, and being able to make price adjustments based on movements in those. And then finally, being able to incorporate customer segmentation into my pricing. So those are the core capabilities that we need to get going with our pricing initiative. And the other thing that we need is the ability to convince our execs, our C-level, that a pricing initiative makes sense and it's the right thing to do at this moment in time. Now, executives are paid the big bucks to worry about a lot of things. And to the left here, we have some, like the key project acceptance criteria that C-level will typically bear in mind when deciding whether to sign off any project, really, but of course also a pricing initiative. And therefore, as a transformation leader who's looking to get a pricing initiative off the ground, I need to tick these boxes. I need to make sure that I've got a handle on the costs of what it's going to cost. So I need to be able to manage costs. I need to keep those to as low as possible so that I can show a return on investment as quickly as possible. And I need to manage other risks, so not just the financial ones. So really, I need to be looking at targeting the scope initially, so that I can reduce risk from an impact perspective, from a scope perspective. not biting off too much as a first chunk. And I also need to reduce my technology risks. So go with something proven technology, tried and tested. It's going to be implemented very quickly, because executives tend to get worried when they see 6 to 12 month timelines, thinking things are probably going to be too complex. And finally, I need to keep it flexible, because another thing execs don't like is signing something off that's going to be outdated in 12 months. So it needs to be like a starting point that can be built on, flexible, that I can develop in-house myself. So Pros have taken all this into account and come up with what we call our Pros Rapid Price Management solution. So this enables companies to have those core capabilities to get going up the price of maturity curve, and also increases the likelihood of getting it off the ground by providing a fixed cost, best practice fixed scope, and it's a proven solution that's already been implemented with a number of our customers. It starts at 75,000 euros for the first 12 months of a license fee, and it includes services within that 75,000. So there's no add-on cost; it's a fix. Companies know the amount they have to commit on day one. It's implemented within 30 working days. And it's all about then selecting an initial target scope to ensure that we start small, we prove the value from that initial scope, and then we can roll out further. So start small, prove the ROI, prove to senior management that it's a success, and then we can invest more, both from an organization perspective, maybe from a money perspective, in terms of rolling it further out within the organization. And you won't be surprised to learn that the core capabilities that comes with are the ones we've already talked about in terms of getting going on the pricing maturity journey. So really getting pricing insights to help determine what my price strategy should be, and help understand how my prices are playing out in the market. So it has things like a box plot that you see on the left here. It has a price waterfall, it has a margin drivers waterfall, so I can understand what's impacting my margin from one time period to a next. It's got scatter plots, it's got all the standard pricing analytics that you'd expect to support the setting of pricing strategies and understanding how those strategies are playing out in the market once I've calculated my prices and sent them out there. And then it's got the capability to really truly understand my cost base and my competitor pricing, and be able to respond to changes within my costs, within my competitors, and be able to respond dynamically within various tolerances. And then finally, it's got the ability to segment my customers based on their willingness to pay, so I can have like a more personalized, targeted price sent out into the market. So let's explore this in just a little bit more detail. So there's two aspects to that. One is managing the list price, and the second is managing my customer segmentation to offer discounts off that list price. So in terms of managing the list price, the top two here, cost pass-through and margin target, are all about understanding how my costs are changing over time, and if those costs are changing, those input costs are changing within certain tolerances, being able to execute on a new price dynamically, either through a cost pass-through where I'm maintaining an absolute margin, or specifying a margin target where I'm obviously specifying a specific margin percent that I want to achieve. And then we've got the ability to also look at competitor prices and change prices based on what the competition is doing. So it incorporates up to 3 different competitor price points. We can change those competitors based on different countries, looking at the different competitors in different geographies. And we can then decide how we want to leverage those competitor prices. So we can choose to use 1, 2, or all 3 of them. We can use an average, choose the lowest, the highest, etc., etc. And finally, specifically, there's a market alignment capability where if I've got my existing list prices are completely misaligned with the market, so basically I've got no customers that are paying that list price, it's too high, it's potentially putting customers off buying from us, I can realign those list prices based on historical net price performance to bring them more in line with, what my smallest customers would be willing to pay for the smallest volumes. And then I've got the ability to manage the customer segment as well. So set a segment discount off that list price. And that can either be by using an existing customer segmentation that segments my customers based on their willingness to pay, maybe based on the type of industry that they're in, the type of company that they are. Or if nothing exists currently, we also have the ability to set that to set those customer segments based on historical volumes or historical revenues, how much they've bought from us in the past, and separating those just purely in terms of size into small, medium, large, and extra large. And so with a combination of that list price and that customer segment discount, we're able to set a book price or a target price, if you like, per customer segment that we can then make available through our real-time pricing engine to any application that wants to consume that price. Okay. So that's a capability, but we also need to reduce the risk of a business disruption as we're moving from maybe not having much in terms of sophisticated pricing strategies in place to starting to implement either these types of strategies or other types of strategies. The same kind of issue applies. We want to reduce the risk of disruption to the business. And so I've kind of described that as always having a plan B available. So that's important. So, for example, we may want to ideally execute a competitive price strategy, but for whatever reason, we may not have the latest competitive prices available for this particular week, or we may have 1 out of 3, etc. So we need to be flexible and always have a plan B. And we need to have a plan B from 2 specific, for 2 things really. First of all, plan B for data. So I'm showing on the screen here as an example. Within the Pro solution, we're able to specify, in this case, if we're looking at specifying a margin target for our cost pricing method, pricing framework, we can specify that, for example, at the category of coffee, product category coffee, or we can specify a more granular one at the product group coffee machines, or we can specify specific ones or exceptions at the actual individual coffee machine level. And the technology is clever enough to always go to the most granular one that has been defined. So it could be at the coffee machine level. It doesn't find one at the coffee machine level. It goes to the coffee machine group level, and otherwise to the coffee category. So that's the first thing. With competitive prices, we have a similar thing in place as well, but also the ability to use the data in different ways. So if we haven't got all 3 competitive price points, just using the lowest of the ones we've got, etc., etc. So different rules can be applied to just address that potential risk of not having that right data at the right moment in time. And then the other thing we need to do is have a plan B for our pricing strategy. So we define a hierarchy, a priority sequence, if you like, of applying pricing strategies. And then we go through a try in order kind of approach to determine which price strategy is going to evaluate my price to make sure that I don't have a business disruption because I'm calculating a price for all of my price points. It may not be my preferred best pricing strategy, but at least I'm getting the next best one, and I'm publishing a price for all my price points. Okay, and so we've got that. We've decided on the scope to go for. We're deploying the solution, but it doesn't stop there. We then need to move up this pyramid from deployment to having users use the solution, having users that are using the solution adopt the solution. So basically adopting the best practices, the processes that I put in place that I'm intending for them to use, and from that it drives the KPI improvement and the return on investment. And we're going to talk more about how we ensure this and how we monitor this in the next webinar. So in conclusion, it's important to, as we're moving forward and getting more mature with our pricing strategies, to determine the right strategy, the right play that's relevant to our context, and which pricing framework or frameworks we therefore need, and the offer structure we need to support that. Then we need the pricing insights to inform that strategy and measure the impact of the strategy. We need the ability to execute those desired strategies, those desired pricing frameworks. Then we need to select an appropriate scope based on like a cost-benefit kind of risk analysis to get going. Design for a quick time to value, so we can demonstrate that we're getting value from our pricing initiative very quickly. We need to ensure that there isn't one data point that is a single point of failure by building in that flexibility within how I define the data and within how I determine which pricing strategies to use. And so we can start small, prove that we're delivering the value that we're expecting, and then roll out to other parts of the business, other product lines, etc., etc. And as I mentioned, if those pricing strategies, pricing frameworks of needing to keep up to date with costs, needing to keep up to date with competitive prices are the right ones for you, Pros has this rapid price management solution that gets you going with a very fixed cost, a very quick time to value to help you on your pricing journey. So that's all I had for this webinar. As I mentioned, we've got an upcoming webinar where we're going to talk about those other 5 common barriers, explore return on investment in a little bit more detail, how we convince stakeholders, data quality, etc. But for now, thank you very much for listening. I'll pass over to Malika to see if there are any questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Nick. Okay, so we have 3 minutes to address a few questions. Please don't hesitate to put yours in the panel. I do have 2 questions already for you, Nick. So the first one is, what should we consider when deciding on initial scope?
So what should we consider when deciding on where to land initially? Well, there's a number of things. There's a number of criteria to consider, like for any project, really. So first of all, we need to choose something where we feel there's the right appetite for change. We've got the right resources in place with the right appetite for change. We've got resources that are available. We've got maybe processes that are closely aligned with what we're trying to achieve. There's the right IT landscape. We've got the ability to generate the data that we need to generate to support our pricing strategies. And most importantly, where there is, there's good relative value to be generated. So we want to choose a scope, obviously, where we can prove that return on investment. So it's partly where we feel there's the best chance of user adoption, and partly where we feel there's good opportunity to deliver an initial quick win, low-hanging fruit in terms of getting some real measurable value from the new pricing strategies that we implement. Within a team of people that have the resources that are available, and they've got the desire, the energy to try and make it work for us, and they've also got the support from their senior leadership to make it work.
Okay, thank you. Okay, time for one last question. Can I add other pricing strategies to Pros Rapid?
Yes, so it goes back to that, needing to be flexible. So Pros Rapid is aimed to be like a starting point, and in reality, we don't just land necessarily with that. There could be 1 or 2 other things that we need to do around that. So there is the opportunity to add an additional pricing strategy, some additional requirements around Pros Rapid, but still get those core benefits of very small landing cost and a very quick time to value. So yes, there is the ability to add some additional pricing strategies or different pricing strategies.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks again, Nick, for your insights. We are at time, so thanks everyone for joining. We will see Nick again on December 13 for this continued session, and until then, yeah, thanks again, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.